Welcome in to the fourth floor here from whatever it's called now. Used to be American Airlines Arena down here in Miami. People just starting to get into the arena. Some of them know at this point that Jimmy Butler is not playing. We'll get to that in a second. Before floor is sponsored by Biscayne Bay Brewing. You can see behind me a little Biscayne Bay Brewing stand there, which will be full here pretty soon. Try the Tropical Bay IPA, Marlins Lager, and all of the other Biscayne Bay Brewing products. Also sponsored by our friend Lynette. You can find her at insurancebylynette.com, insurancebylynette.com. If you need life insurance, car insurance, particularly car insurance, she helped a friend of mine this week who has a terrible driving record, found good insurance for this person. So she could do it for you as well. Again, it's insurancebylynette.com. All right, this isn't going to be a long one because, again, people are just starting to get into the arena. It's kind of loud inside the bowls, so I figured I'd do it from out here. Let's get to the news of the day, though. The Heat put out that Jimmy Butler will not play today, guys, because of the bad ankle. I did just get it confirmed that this is not going to be a long-standing problem. It more has to do with the 8 games in 12 days than anything else. Going to give him the day off today, and he could play as soon as tomorrow. So let's get to it, Brady. Iguodala is playing. Is it as simple as just sticking him back in the starting lineup, or are we going to see somebody else?
I think, Andre Iguodala has never been a guy they plugged into the starting lineup, especially now having Ariza. They like to interchange them a bit more.
I'm not hearing Brady.
Every time they've used Jimmy Butler's been out, they put in Gabe Vincent, and I don't think that's something they could do today with the length of the Brooklyn Nets. Their shooting guard is Joe Harris, so you're ultimately going to want to put Duncan Robinson on him. And now you just got to find length. So that now the arrows basically point to KZ Okpala possibly slotting in. It's kind of interesting if they would go that route since they don't really trust him in any area of the game usually. So now I do think there's a possibility of them even going big and maybe putting Bielisa in there since like their options are pretty slim at the moment. So if they do that, I would kind of see that a bit more, or the KZ Okpala option. But obviously Gabe Vincent slotting in would seem a bit unrealistic.
All right, I had trouble hearing Brady during that. I don't know if it's on my end or on the other end. But, Ricky, let's get to it. What is the significance of a game against this Nets team, even with no Harden, without Jimmy Butler?
I think it's either way. It's a potential first-round matchup, depending on how the teams end up sliding or doing better for the rest of the season. Granted, look, it's on Bam right now, but at this point, we don't know if Bam is going to be the kind of player, at least this season, to deliver or put this team on his back and take this team to a victory. The Heat are pretty much outclassed and outmatched right now. Their one trump card, Jimmy Butler is not in today, so that big time difference maker that's been proven is not going to play. It's going to be very hard for this team. Tyler Hero has had a very rough go about it in the last few games. Duncan Robinson is hit or miss. And if your best player is Bam, I don't know. I don't know about today.
Well, you mentioned Hero and Dragic. Here's the only possible positive today. There's no other choice, right? I mean, it's got to be the two of them and none that have got to give them scoring because, I mean, they're not going to run offense through Bam all of a sudden. Like, they'll run some stuff, and they'll tell him to be more aggressive on some of the sets they typically run with him and Duncan, etc. But it's not like they're going to start throwing the ball in the post for, 20 posts up for Bam Adebayo. That's just not the way that they operate. No. I mean, so to be honest, Brady, really, if Hero and Dragic, I just saw them out on the court. They were doing the early work. I mean, if they got anything left at this point, we need to see it today.
Yeah, I think that's what, the thing is. Their bench has been the part that we harped on earlier in the season, but now it's something that has basically held them back. We can harp on Goran, maybe lack of burst or age or different things like that, but he's been able to produce in different spurts. We saw it in the fourth quarter of that one game earlier in the season. Tyler Hero is just obviously going through a tough stretch, so once he sees some, balls go through the basket a couple of times, he'll go get it going. You mentioned not changing things for Bam, throwing it in the post and things like that. But we have seen it one time, and the one time was against Brooklyn without Jimmy Butler. And so if there was ever going to be a game like that where they're going to work offense through and tell him, make the leash a little bit longer and say just go, try do what you can on the offensive side and try to win them a basketball game, it would probably be today.
Ricky, let's take a look at this Nets team now going forward. No Harden today. We've only seen the three of them play together for 6 games at this stage. And I don't know that you can guarantee they're going to play together for much more than that during the regular season. I think the plan is, with Nash and D'Antoni to kind of get them ready for the postseason. I mean, what can reasonably be expected from a team in the playoffs that hasn't had, as good as their core three may be, that really hasn't had time to kind of work on it together?
I think in normal circumstances, a team like this won't get out of the first round or even the second round. But when you're talking about three players who are arguably the best players at their respective positions when fully healthy, this team, on the basis of their talent alone, could very well get you either to the conference finals or the NBA finals. I'll give you two examples. The 2006 Heat, Shaq missed the first half of maybe not the first half, but like the first month or so of the season after injuring his ankle against the Indiana Pacers on TNT. They struggled. They were up and down. Guys were in and out throughout the season, but then they got it together in the playoffs. Conversely, the 2014 Heat, Wade was out throughout the season, missed almost 30 games, but then heading into the NBA Finals, it looked like they were a lock to win it again. They barnstormed through the Eastern Conference playoffs, but then it all fell apart. With this Nets team, it really does look like they could very well get to the finals on the basis of their raw talent if everyone's healthy. Because if everyone's healthy, you're going to have to worry about stopping an offense that could very well score anywhere between 130 and 150 points a game, which is crazy considering how far we've come as a league. This isn't the only team I can imagine doing that sort of thing is probably like the Denver Nuggets of the mid 1980s. When they set that record with the Pistons.
But Ricky,
so I think,
Ricky, we saw teams that just score. I mean, we saw the Phoenix teams, the Nash teams, and he knows these teams very well, right? He and D'Antoni, they're their teams, the 7 seconds or less teams. They always flamed out at a certain point. I mean, they had maybe not quite the star level, but Nash, Stoudemire, Marion, elite, Joe Johnson at one point, elite
conference finals.
Finals, and of course, maybe you don't have the brawl, and with Nash on the side and Diao and Stoudemire leaving the bench, maybe things look different. Maybe they win that finals, but we really haven't seen that kind of. I mean, even the Lakers last year, for all of their top end talent, that was a defensive team that won the championship. They were not a great offensive team; they were a great defensive team.
Right.
That's what makes me wonder about this. But I also don't trust anybody else. I don't trust the Bucks in the playoffs. And I don't trust Embiid and Simmons until I see it.
Yeah,
and then on the West,
I think that's the difference.
That's the difference, right?
That
there is no other team.
Because the thing is, in the Eastern Conference, you have the best teams, like you mentioned, the best teams in the East are largely unproven. Miami is not right now at the point where they can knock out the Nets and be that one proven team that teaches them. What if Philly encounters the Celtics again and gets swept again? What if Milwaukee encounters, which is crazy to say, the Heat again, and they lose in 5 or 6 or 7. We don't know. The difference between those Suns teams that you mentioned in the Western Conference is that a lot of the teams that they ended up losing to, which was mainly the Spurs, they were all proven. Right. You run into that juggernaut and it's over. So I think the Nets actually have a much better chance of getting to the finals this year, considering the fact that none of those teams are, most of the other teams are unproven, but when you consider the fact that you've got Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, who've all each been to an NBA Finals. 2 of them have actually won championships. I think that could be the difference maker, even though their defense remains to be seen.
All right, Brady, I'll let you have the final word. I've had some difficulty hearing you here. I'm not sure why. I've got Ricky's volume, but not yours as well. But just give me a formula to stay competitive today.
I think it's what I mentioned last time. I think it's just Bam, letting Bam go and try to score like he did in that last game against Brooklyn. And obviously the earlier point about the bench guys stepping up, Andre Iguodala coming back helps that bench unit a little bit on the defensive side of the ball, but he does not give you much, offensive, getting to the basket type of stuff. And I think you're going to need to see that from Tyler and Goran, as we mentioned. Maybe a big Kendrick game, if you've mentioned that earlier as well. If you can get him going in those type of circumstances, you need a boost in some area. So that it's going to be one of those games where you're going to have to try to get it in the mud. That's the way you're going to win a series against Brooklyn somehow, some way later down the line. You're not going to outscore this team, but if you get it in the mud, you have a chance. And I could see them doing that today. But I still think this is not a game they win. I do think it's going to be a little bit closer than maybe a blowout early. They always come out early. They come out strong in the first quarter, and then it'll probably fade away late.
Oh, I have to eat my cracker. I forgot. Oh man.
Why is that?
I'll do it in the post game. I'll do it in the post game.
I forgot that you were supposed to do that. All right, everybody, play PrizePicks.com. use the code 5. I'll be here at the arena. Alex will be here with me as well. Also, if you're looking for soccer coverage, I think we got a cast of thousands at the Inter Miami match, the opener today. So check that out. Our producers, both of our producers are there. Manny and Alejandro. Alejandro's producing from his car. We've also got Kai, Austin, Jazz, a whole bunch of others are at the stadium with their 8,000 people, which is actually more than they're going to be here today. They're probably going to be between 4,000 and 5,000 today. Check out Biscayne Bay Brewing while you're here. That's the stand. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.